Blog Talk Radio. Moments radio show for the inspiration, education, and celebration of high frequency living worldwide. I'm Mari, and I am so excited to finally get back here on the show. This has been like a whirlwind year. I can't believe that it's almost over. I can't believe it. I've taught, I think, close to actually over 80 classes in the 5D Academy, in our freeform training classes, in our Advanced Alchemy Mastermind, and I just finished my second book, which should be coming out around February. It's not as long as my first one, but it'll be fun, and I think you guys will really like it. It's been a labor of love for sure, and I'm very excited about that coming out. It's called the 5D Toolkit, and it's really all about getting started on your 5D frequency journey. So if you're new to all of this, that's the book for you. And then additionally, I just finished up a brand new sparkly 25-minute training, video training. That'll be free. If you'd like access to that, I decided it's not even like my tech people haven't even like really put it all into like all the softwares and everything, but I'm so excited about it. So if you'd like access to it before we actually even launch it, and access to a new thing that I'm offering, we'll see how long I can do this because there's so many of you and only one of me, but I'll be doing a one-on-one 15-minute free 5D frequency assessments. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of words. So they're 15 minutes long, and they're 5D frequency assessments. So basically what it is just you and I get on a call together, private call, and I will help you to see where you're at in your fluency journey, what's activated in your 5D frequency, what might not be just yet, and give you some ideas on what you can do next. So I'm really excited about that. It's just a 15-minute call, and but it's packed because we will really dig in and see. Most of you everybody's born with 5D frequency. Everybody's born with it. This is not like psychic gifts or, some sort of otherworldly ability. This is the frequency version of you, your frequency overlay. But because we're not taught about this in the same, on the same track as we are with our 3D skills like logic and analytical abilities and all of our reading and writing and arithmetic and all those things, and using all of our physical senses. We're very focused on that, but we're not trained in the 5D frequency stuff at the same velocity. So, but it doesn't mean that it's not on. It's just that it's on and nobody really knows that it's on until things go wrong and all the logic doesn't work, right? So that's when we start to say, oh, wait, there must be something more. Why am I here? I wonder if I'm meant to do something more. Why, who am I? Why isn't none of this working? Why am I in analysis paralysis? Why can't I make a decision? Why are these things dropping away out of nowhere? Where did these new things come from? All those questions are invitations to you stepping into your 5D abilities, which are meant to support you. 80% of how you live your life should be through 5D, and actually 5D frequency first. And those who know me know I always say this: you want to check in with frequency first, and then your 3D mental mind and all your physical stuff is there to take the inspired action steps that have been prescribed from your higher self and put those into action in the physical world. So your higher self needs you and your physical body and your beautiful, bright, intellectual mind. And you need it on all of its inspiration and access to the infinite field of all possibility and all of your parallel realities and all of the solutions and all of the new ideas, all of that. Your next book, your next project, your next athletic, accomplishment, your next relationship, all of that comes from that infinite field. So wouldn't it make sense to have some access to it full time with consciousness so it doesn't have to come in all these little haphazard aha moments and weird little deja vus, and everybody gets hung up on these signs. I see all these numbers, 444 and 1111. What does it mean? What does it mean? No, it just means that you're missing a bunch of messages, because behind that, those numbers are the ringtones. Those are the ringtones letting you know, hey, there's a big message waiting for you. Your higher self would like to have a conversation. It's like getting really excited about your phone ringing, but never answering it. So that's so when people come to me and they first meet me and they say, oh, I'll go to a party or something. My friends will tell people what I do, which I generally don't like them to do, because then everybody starts asking questions. But they start with, once they figure it out, they're like, oh, so what does it mean? I saw 1111 today. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's great. And there's bigger messages awaiting you. If somebody's trying to get in touch with you, that would be the rest of you, your higher self. So all that being said, I'm very excited about that. If you'd like to book a call, one of those 15-minute frequency assessments, I'm not sure how long I'm going to be doing them personally, just because this podcast and everything goes out to a lot of people. But I'd like to get to know folks in the community. I haven't done these ever like this in this format, but I certainly haven't done calls like that for a very long time, several years now. So it'll be good to hear and see where everybody's at. Gives me a lot of good ideas for the next things that I develop, and also will help you to get a bird's eye view of what's happening with your abilities and kind of what your next steps should be. And then also that 25-minute training, which is packed with info so that I don't have to spend an hour on the phone explaining it all to you. So you'll have that before you get on the call. So you just write us at support@ahamomentsinc.com. That's support at AHA-moments with an S, INC.com. And we'll send you links and more info and all that good stuff. All right, so let's get to tonight's topic, which is your 5D calling will always make you more money than your 3D job or business. And this is near and dear to my heart. I have spent a really long time writing this book and a really long time developing these trainings and what have you. And one of the things that I see also in the academy with the folks who are in there now and all the classes and all the things I've been up to is that we are always being called forward to a bigger, better, more expansive version of ourselves. And if we don't have full, fluent access to our higher selves, I promise you, you're missing chunks of that expanded self. And it's an ongoing evolution. So you don't just say, okay, well, I learned this, I learned this and this skill and that tip, and so that's it. This is not, Sunday go to meeting stuff. This is not dogma. Okay, this is not religion. This is frequency. This is frequency-based education. So when you, and free in your access to that infinite field, to all of your potentials, to your whole catalog of you. And so when you are energetically inclined and you start to be able to receive those messages, you'll also realize that we all have a calling. And you might have, of course, we've heard snippets of this. And that calling is about your contribution, right? Your forward contribution, but not just to other people, not just to the greater good or to walking the planet Earth or any of that. That calling is your invitation to partner with your higher self on a project that will be of contribution to whoever you're doling it out to, and also of deep, nourishing contribution to yourself and your own advancement. And when you have that combination, okay, so doing something that makes your heart sing, offering something that makes your heart sing, where you're feeling connected to you're contributing this thing to, or this, this service, or product, or, career path to, where you make plenty of money. More, I always like to say more money than you know what to do with. So it makes your heart sing, it makes somebody else's heart sing, and makes you a lot of money, and gives you a lot of time freedom as well. So the lifestyle is on point to how you want to live. The contribution is of magnitude to whoever it is that this service, product, or job, whatever, is addressing and serving. But it has to make your heart sing. And when your heart sings, what that really means is that you and your higher self are one. You're acting as one. It's not a matter of, that's that otherworldly being over there, and then I'm over here, and it's trying to teach me lessons, so that's why I'm suffering in my job now, and I'm supposed to be suffering because, it wouldn't be work if it wasn't suffering and all of that. That's all ridiculous. That's not true. Okay? What is true is that we do get into unaligned job situations, and when we're on this path, because a lot of them are invitations to search for more, right? If everything is so hunky-dory and perfect, we're not really asking a whole lot of questions for expansion. We're busy sort of slobbing around in where we're at until we're bored. And then we say, oh, wait, maybe there's something more, right? So complacency is not what we're talking about here. If you feel like there's something more, if you feel, and this calling often comes in through some, not so pretty veils, right? Because we're on a path, we're plodding along, we're trying to get the job done, whatever that is. But if it's out of alignment, it's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel powerful. It's not going to feel nourishing. And then it won't be received that way either. And you don't want to go to your job. You don't want to make your business into your job, and businesses can turn into a job very quickly, and come home tired in a negative perspective. You want to come home tired because you had such a good time. You don't want to come home tired because you're feeling beaten down or so disconnected or so pulled apart. And so when the title was channeled to me, your 5D calling will always make you more money than your 3D job or business, I was actually driving, which is where I get a lot of my channelings. I channel on my way, on my different commutes and what have you. And when I heard that title, I was like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be a doozy. But it's true. They said, look, when your higher self is involved, money is not an object. When your higher self when your higher self is not primarily involved, and your kind of mental mind is leading the way, this is a good, good enough thing, and this will pay the bills for this month, and I just have to do this until maybe something else comes through, but I'm probably being taught some lessons, That's where your 3D mind attaches onto how much you can make, right? Oh, well, this is this kind of salary, and this person in this position, accountants make this in this corporation, or this business would only generate this much money per quarter, or, there's limitations, right? Because what your mental mind does is it puts corrals around you based on the past. Oh yeah, you did that before, and that was a disaster. You don't want to do that again. And what it's seen other people do. So if it's seen other people face plant trying to do whatever that thing is, then your mental mind will say, whoa, 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 wait. Helen face planted with that. Remember that? Remember that story, the cocktail party, where she said she invested in blah, 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 and it just went all south and they lost everything? That's what your mental mind will do. So your mental mind is the one that puts those, what I call energetic glass ceilings and glass windows, doors, fortresses around your earnings. And so if you're not fluent in the language of your higher self, it can't get in there to talk you out of that. Now, I've been doing this work, for decades. Online, doing anything online is very complex. It might seem easy, just put together a podcast. There's so much work that goes into all of these things, these academies and all this stuff. And there are certainly pieces of it that I absolutely don't like doing. I really, really, really don't. But I know overall, my worst day doing this is still better than my best day when I was in corporate, because corporate was out of alignment for me. Right? And even though I did learn a lot of lessons that I still use to this day, I did get my MBA and a BA in psychology and blah, 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 and was in advertising and was an executive, blah, blah, blah. And so it was definitely a trajectory and a path. And so the way that it doesn't mean you have to, what I'm saying doesn't mean you have to go quit everything if it feels like you're having bad days and you hate what you're doing. But what you want to do is get fluent in the language of your higher self so that your higher self can start to narrate the situation. So instead of your 3D mental mind narrating the situation, which is going to pretty much fire hose you and say, oh my gosh, it'll get caught up in the gossip, in the politics, in the, getting attached to the wrong markers of success, limitations, numbing out, escaping, all that kind of stuff, because it doesn't have all the tools. It wasn't built to do the job. It was only built to do, remember, your mental mind was only built to do 20% of the job. Your higher self is supposed to be doing 80% of the job. So the way that you, first of all, heal where you are, or at least find out if where you are is part of this calling thing, is to get in touch with your higher self and ask, okay, where does this fit in? Instead of, oh my God, do I have to keep on doing this? Oh my gosh, she said, she described me. I hate this. I can't take it anymore. Am I being called to something else? If you're listening to this, yeah, there's some adjustments that are being brought to you on a platter as an invitation. And the invitation is, the first invitation is, hey, from your higher self, you want to have a chat? You want to talk to me? So I can give you some direction, so I can let you know I have a whole catalog, a whole plethora of opportunities for you, because I sit with the keys to the infinite fields of possibility, probability, all your catalogs, all of your lifetimes, all of the potentials that you have, all of your infinite potentials. There are some really cool things that are available to you. Would you like to know what they are? Because I would love to let you know. I'd love to give you some inspired action steps to take so you can start to unfold this, to uncover this path. And I'd like to support you and help you to be efficient at it, because that's what your higher self does. It makes it efficient. So your higher self will often cut out, 30 steps that your mental mind would put in. Because the physical mind, okay, so your 3D self operates on what we call 3D linear infrastructure. So 3D infrastructure is time and space and linearity, your gravity and various laws of marching the earth. But 5D, your higher self, operates on a completely different infrastructure, operates on energetic infrastructure. So your 5D self operates with no time, no space. All is present. All is possible. All is happening simultaneously. No linearity. So when there's no linearity, what does that really mean? That means that 1 plus 1 could equal 6 if you wanted to. You stay in the present moment. It doesn't have to equal 2. So you could, I know with my first book, when I did my first book, which I did not want to write. I wrote that book kicking and screaming, to be honest. And it took me many years to finally sort of, because I was kind of living it, as I was writing. The first book is always hard. And I remember, just kicking and screaming and saying, no, just let me move to California and then I'll finish the book. Wouldn't it be great? I'll be able to finish it on the beach. And I was trying to bargain, And this was way before I knew about the whole 5D thing. Like I wasn't there yet. I was still back in the whole intuition science thing. And I remember hearing, write the book, finish the book. And I would go to the bookstore every day and I would write for 3 hours because that Barnes & Noble would not let us plug our computers in. And so that was over 10 years ago. So, back then you had 3 hours of battery life without being plugged in, and then it was time to go home. So I'd write every day for 3 hours. And I finally got to the end of the manuscript. And then out of nowhere, off I went to California. And then once I got settled a few months in, I got offered a recommendation, a referral to an agent. She signed me in 15 minutes, told me what I needed to do. I got all the, proposals and things back to her, and she sold it in 24 hours. And it was like, wait, what? How did that all happen? Like people wait, years and years to get an agent, years and years to get a book deal. But because I was at that point working with my higher self and I was following the communications. I don't want to just say signs. I was following the communication, the full communication. I was getting channeled communications about what to do and following spontaneous, inspired action steps. There were a lot of steps that were skipped. There was a lot of linear time that didn't need to be slogged through. And that's how you know you're being called forward. Because when you're in a calling, not only is the money is part of the infinite package. So there's not really a corral around the money. If you look at people who are working their calling, look at Steve Jobs, look at Michael Jackson. These guys, yes, I know they've passed away. Generally, a lot of times that happens, but a big phenomenon, people like that. But still, the money, there was no limitation on it because there was no limitation on their innovation. And if you've been feeling like you're restless, like there's something brewing, if you're always coming up with new ideas and you kind of have a vault of journals of new ideas that you haven't taken action on because you can't figure out the linear way, and then you try to research it and look for all the statistics that would tell you that you'll be a success before you can be a success, and whether it's something statistically influential at this time, if it's not coding, it's not worthy of, your attention because everybody knows that coding is the new thing. The new thing may not be for you. 90 to nothing, it's not. What you're seeing, and what I think is really interesting on a historical level, this is new. What I'm talking about is not like, what's my passion? Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's not what this is. This is new, and I'll tell you why. Just like our physical bodies evolve, so do our energetic selves. Our frequency evolves, and the energetic grid evolves. Energy, frequency evolves. So that's why back in the old days, we had psychics and trance channels and mediums, and they were kind of the go-to people because most people on a personal level, we had rotary phones, we had crank phones before my time, but there were crank phones, there were 8-track tape players, there were cassette players that gave way to CDs and then, to downloadable music and MP3s and all that. Well, energy tracks along with that as well. And access to more of you, access to your personal energetic self. Remember, the phone went from something that first had to be used an operator to even connect you, all the way to now you have a phone in your hand that does all your pictures, your emails, is basically your computer. People don't even have computers in their houses anymore so much, right? You can do most everything on your phone. That's the evolution, right? It became personal. It's in your pocket. So now you can be bombarded with advertising on your text messages, and people want to get into your personal space. Your personal space has become so personal you can carry it in your pocket, right? Your whole world in your pocket, in your purse. So it's become very tangibly and very individual, right? You have a different screensaver than your sister or your brother. You have, all different types of apps. You can do all different sorts of things, and everybody has a phone configured personally. Now it reads your face, it reads your fingerprints. It can be a microchip in your arm, all those things. Well, if all the physical things are evolving at that kind of a pace, wouldn't it make sense that your access to your own energy would too? If your 5D self is supposed to be carrying 80% of the load, why would your 3D self outpace without your 5D self offering a similar level of personal connection? So now, personal channeling, instead of needing to go to a big trance channel and sit in a crowd of people and hope that you get in the hot seat and get called on and get to ask a question, that becomes more of a global teaching moment as opposed to a personal one-on-one, relationship moment. Wouldn't it make sense that you have a way to have those personal downloads, those contextual conversations? I say if and I said this is my first book, and I say it often when I speak, is there's 4,000 types of divination. 4,000 religions out there. There are over 600 types of divination, and divination is, where you're trying to get the answers. So tarot cards and, reading the clouds and the fire and the candlemancy and all that stuff. If there's so many ways to ask questions, why would God make so many ways for billions of people to give it all kinds of requests and questions and prayers and have zero way of getting the answers back? Like no communication, no system of communication for getting all of those individual answers back. If all these absolute individuals are asking for all these different prayers, and any one person can ask for 40 things in a day, everything from where is the dog to can I have money for those new shoes to where's my next job going to be to, who's going to be my soulmate. All those questions, why would it create a one-way system of communication? It's not a one-way system of communication. So this is not dogma. This is frequency. It's built in. So that system of communication, that robust system of answers is built into you. And the keys to it are through speaking with your higher self, through your energetic communication system, which is the 5D frequency-based language system for not only initiating conversations, but getting the answers back. And when you can start to, and this is funny because I always channel these calls, these shows, but when you can start to heed the calling of your 5D frequency and heed the calling of your higher self, just for basic conversation, then that whole calling thing, what's your calling, is really what's the agreement with you and your higher self to move forward on, where you're advancing on an energetic level and on a physical level at the same time with consciousness. That's the big caveat, is with consciousness. So a calling is a partnership with your higher self that also can follow along the rules of energetic infrastructure. So that means no time, no space, no linearity in a portion of it, right? Because you're going to put it into the physical world. So yes, I had a lot of non-linearity about getting agents and book deals and all that, But then it did go into a linear process to be published. It did go into a linear process to be marketed and to do interviews on Gaia TV and all that kind of stuff, right? So there was linearity around. There was a physical output, but it was a fraction of what it would have been if I wasn't in tune, right? If I wasn't in tune, I could still be unpublished because I could still be creating all kinds of extras and rigmarole and analysis paralysis and all kinds of reasons why it can't happen, and all the negativity and getting with the wrong people and them being negative about it, et cetera, et cetera. Got it? So it is now, as you're seeing in history, a different time. We have the internet, we have social media. Look at these influences. Everybody's aggravated with the young kids, because they're skipping college or skipping high school. They want to be influencers. But if you think about it, and I'm not saying you have to go out and be an influencer unless you're being called to do that. That's not what I'm saying. But if you look at the model, the kids who are coming in unencumbered with the stuff that us older folks are encumbered with because we came through a slower time, these kids are coming in and saying, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not suffering for this. No, I'm not going to be put out for that. Because they know from an energetic perspective, they really don't have to, and that they'll thrive from a place of freedom, from a place of fulfillment, from a place of connection, from a place of alignment. So they're basically saying in their own way, and they're up against a tough system because there's been a lot of people living on the planet before they got here. They're, 15 to 25 years old, right? There's a lot more older people than them tell them it can't be that way. But they're saying, no, wait. That's not aligned. That's not my thing. So I'm out. And they go in on YouTube and then they talk to each other. They pick one thing that they're really excited about, drawing or putting on lipstick or making a recipe or whatever it is they do, making jokes, reviewing movies, reviewing, computers, whatever that thing is, that's their thing. And they just do it and they say, hey, I'll let you be a voyeur on my thought process about this. And boom. Then all of a sudden they have 50,000. Then they have 100,000. Then they have 1 million. Then they have 2 million, 20 million people following them, doing this one thing that the rest, the older folks are saying, what is this? You didn't get a degree. You didn't go to Harvard. What do you mean you're making $20 million a year? What do you mean all these, Disney has you dancing for them and doing all these things on social media? Well, they followed the quote calling, and they gave voice to clearly other people who are interested, even if it's those other people are just interested in being entertained or laughing or having, some sort of joyful point of the day. They're making their contribution. Now, this will fine tune over time. This will, this is an evolution just like everything else. But what I'm saying is for you personally, the question you want to ask yourself is, you want to start asking yourself, when you say, what's my calling? It's not like, what's my inner Oprah? Like the thing that's going to make me a legend, the thing that's going to make me this huge, impactful thing. It could be something really what you would consider to be small. People I've seen, and there's a lot of older people getting in on it now too. I've seen people with antiquing and refurbishing houses in France and, remodeling and all kinds of things. Crewel work, embroidery, sewing, it's all out there. If you're willing to share your space, other people will glob onto that, and advertisers know. And I was in the advertising business. It's very expensive to get 20 million eyeballs on anything. And love her or hate her, Kim Kardashian, she started all this stuff and she's got, 45 million followers. I know it's way more than that, but just for the sake of number, 45 million followers. It would take an advertising agency and commercial. It's very hard to get that number of people watching anything. And it doesn't matter that 90% of them hate her, because none of the advertisers are saying, okay, of those 45 million people, how many of them actually like you? It doesn't matter. So she gets paid on the whole number, right? So, and I'm not saying you have to go be an influencer, but what I am saying is There's all kinds of different ways to do these things, and the traditional ways aren't the only ways. And so what you want to do is take the glass ceilings, corrals, and assumptions off of yourself, and you want to speak to your higher self and say, hey, what's my calling? Meaning, what's my partnership with you that I can step into the present moment, into something I'm super passionate about, something that's going to be of contribution, something that's going to give me time and money and be a contribution and make my heart sing and advance us on an energetic level. What's that? What's that? And when you start asking those kinds of questions, then the sky's the limit as far as money. Look at these influencers. People can judge them all they want, but these kids are making more money than a lot of these guys on the stock market are. It's much more predictable. They've got, hey, I've got 1 million followers, and that brand needs access to 1 million followers, and it would cost that brand, $2 million to get access to that for 15-second spot, where they can buy, 4 Instagram posts at $10,000 each or $100,000 each, and spend a lot less money than $2 million and not only get in front of the audience, but get in front of the audience with somebody who's endorsing. So it's mixing like the public relations thing with the advertising thing altogether. I mean, it's a genius thing. But what it is, more than genius, is it's nonlinear. And that's where I want you to start to really contemplate. I don't want to say think, because that gets you in your head. When I say contemplate, I mean you're going to use your head a little bit, because I gave you the subject matter. But then you're going to drop down into your heart and say, how does that feel? How is that landing for me? And then that's when you go throughout your day and you start to say, okay, wait a second. What's my calling? What's my partnership? What's my 5D partnership? And that's whether it's a job or a business. It could be a business. I'm not saying you have to jump off a cliff and quit everything, but I'm just saying when you start to ask these questions a little differently, then those signs and symbols and synchronicities that you get all excited about are going to start to come in very differently. And what you want to do, and this is where I hopefully come in, is you want to get fluent in the language so that you can actually literally long form write down the messages or record them in your voice recorder on your phone. That should be the skill set that you want to really max out in 2024 or whatever year you're listening to this podcast. This should be your number one priority, is to get your 5D abilities caught up with your 3D abilities so you can work in tandem partnership and one isn't dragging the other. Because if your 3D is overruling everything, it's dragging down the 5D. And if your 5D isn't even available because you can't communicate with it because you don't know how, but things are popping off randomly, like you get a deja vu and then some kind of synchronistic thing happens, but you don't know how to follow the steps, so then it falls apart, and then you lose your confidence because you thought you believed and then it didn't work. Or you tried part of a manifesting, recipe from Instagram or TikTok and you didn't realize that there was like 17 things that are missing because they're 5D frequency based and nobody's teaching that. So off you go on this tear with this thing on TikTok, and a part of it works and the other part doesn't. And then you say, that's just crap. Where's the next TikTok thing? No. It's just crap. It's just you got the recipe with only half the ingredients or less. So this is why this is very, 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 very important, because as we go forward now in this new time and space on the planet, so the 3D stuff, 3D is evolving. And because the linearity on 3D is evaporating, the linearity on this planet is really starting to smush it, like zhuzh and smush together, right? It's not so black and white anymore. Nothing is black and white. Gender fluidity, nothing is black and white anymore. Jobs, careers, education, even the politics, all the old systems are breaking down because the new systems are ready to carry the load. So my 5D partnership is to get you guys fluent in this stuff so that you can navigate this with so much more ease. So you can get after the real fun instead of just learning the alphabet or the vocabulary or how to put sentences together. It's time to, get fluent enough where you can create with it, where you can write poetry, where you can do the lyrics or compose a symphony. You don't want to be in the constant, like, oh, do I really need that stage? You want to be in the, yeah, maxed it out. Oh, yeah, here we go. Now let me get on to the good stuff. And then evolve from there. That's where you want to be. Okay? And this I will say, the money that comes when your heart is connected and your head knows its place. It's not that it's eliminated. We're not talking negative ego. Oh, you can't have any, or you have to have your mindset. I hate the word mindset, by the way. Take it out of your vocabulary. Can't stand it. It makes me crazy. I was telling my students the other day. What you want to say instead of mindset is mind flow. Mindset is 3D. That's implying that you can control and you should force a certain 3D assigned thought process. No. What if you said cash set instead of cash flow? How much money would you get? If you use the word cash set around your money, and think about it, currency, money is frequency. That's what they say, right? Well, why do they call it currency? Current. Why do they call it cash flow? So this is why getting into this 5D fluency track is so important, because if you want cash flow, but you're using mindset. Hello, there is the issue. Okay, you're using cash flow. You want cash flow, but you're using a set mind. I mean, seriously. I love it. It's funny because I'm talking, right? And I'm being, me, Mari, whatever. But I'm also channeling, and I can hear, like, when they drop in these new things that I haven't said before, so it kind of, pops me up like, oh, yeah, I have to write that down. That's good. I've been talking about the mindset stuff and the changing it to mind flow. But think about it. Mindset is on 3D infrastructure, time, space, linearity. Cash flow is on 5D infrastructure, no time, no space, no linearity. What if, and now, are those congruent? Are those compatible? No. So if you have mind flow and cash flow, now we're getting somewhere. But you can say the word mind flow, but if you don't believe it because you don't have the skills, because you're not fluent in your 5D abilities, and then it's just a word, and yeah, you can say, oh, it's a fancy word. But what you need is the substance that's behind the word mind flow, right? Where your mind is flowing with the frequency, and then that's going to flow with the cash, and that's why this title came up. Your 5D calling will always make you more money than your 3D job or business. And if you're an entrepreneur, near and dear to my heart, I am too, this goes for you too. If that business is giving you hell, it could be growing pains. It could be a lot of things. There's a lot of things because businesses, have a way of morphing and, like kind of like mermations of starlings, they follow their own frequency path, but they do also follow where your heart is. And if you're in fear and you're in stress and you're behind the 8 ball all the time, your business will reflect that. So again, if you're in your head all the time and in the logic of it all, it's going to stop that cash flow. And it's going to, and if you're trying to force your head to think positive and say these affirmations this many times and write this stuff down in a journal and act as if it already happened and all, but it's disconnected and it's not linked up and synced up with live fluency. So you're really using all of the pieces. You have all of the ingredients. Then it just feels like parlor tricks and a little bit terrifying because then you're waiting. And then what's worse is that when it doesn't work, then you start to doubt yourself. And then that creates a whole nother illusion of a wall that doesn't have to be there. Okay, so I would love for you guys to send me an email, get this link, support@ahamomentsinc.com. Forget your messages. It's a 25-minute free training class. We'll send you the link. And then if you'd like to do a 15-minute 5D frequency assessment call with me, just mention that in your email as well, and we'll send you the application for that. It is free, but I ask you several questions so that I can know where you're at when we get on the calls because it's 15 minutes, and I don't have a lot of time to be going all around the mulberry bush. And so we'll send you all that info. And like I said, it's a little sneak peek. My tech folks are going to kill me, but I just, whatever. I follow the frequency. I follow as I'm led, and we'll get that out to you. And I'd love to jump on a call with you. In the meantime, I hope that this has wet your whistle, piqued your interest. At the time of this recording, we're in Christmas season. I know that it's a big time, but it's a great time for you to be reflecting, for you to be thinking about your next chapter, for you to be thinking about that new year. And maybe next week I'll do a show on the energetic state of the union. I usually do that at the end of the year or beginning of the new year. That'll be coming up soon. And we'll talk about where the energy and the frequencies are and kind of how things are rolling. And you're going to see a lot of movement this year. Obviously, this year coming up, we have, of course, an election year, an Olympic year. So there's always a lot of churn around that and a couple of wars going on and all kinds of things. But what you're going to also see on the microcosm around like the more personal space is a lot of quantum leaps because people are dumping the old because it just doesn't fit anymore. And when something doesn't fit, just like bad shoes, it starts to hurt, right? So get ahead of it. Get ahead of it. All right? So so again, you can send me an email at support@ahamomentsinc.com, and I will end with my motto, which is you truly can have exactly what you want. You absolutely deserve it too. And with 5D frequency and fluency, anything is possible. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your night. Bye.